going to talk a little bit about the political spectrum and why it's complete nonsense and should have been done away with. Should have actually never existed, but should have been done away with a long time ago. It's so contradictory, it's unscientific, there's really nothing to it. It's just stuff that people make up. And if you played the world 1,000 times and said it had to have a political spectrum, if you said the people had to develop one, well, it would turn out different a lot in all those replays of the world. Okay, so different countries have different things that they view left and right. Of course, they influence each other, so a lot of them are similar, but that's mainly why they're similar. There may be some biological reasons why people associate with the left or the right. But we're going to just talk about this a little bit here and show how ridiculous this is, and it's unbelievable why scholars ever associate with the right or left or even treat it as if it's something legitimate. It should never happen. Absolutely uncalled for. The planet is so behind. I've been talking about this for many, many years, and people still have not caught on to this. There's a few people that do, but it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. The people are pretty dumb. Okay, so I have an article here in my manifesto called Political Spectrum Prison. You can go to my website and read it if you want. Unfortunately, I don't have all my articles on my manifesto up. Hopefully someday I will have them all. But let's just go over a few of these. So I'm going to head over to the spreadsheet that I had. Okay, this just has a couple things that are generally looked at as left and right, at least here in the U.S. Okay, so one of the big problems here that I'm going to get into right away is that when you start mixing these up, okay, when you have people that are left over here, right over here, and yes, I understand that you can make the political spectrum more complicated, but you're still going to run into the same problem. Okay, so I'm going to use the most simple, just right and left association. We'll get into that a little bit, just a little bit. So when you start to get people that have view some of these things and some of these things over here, they get put in the so-called middle. Okay, so I'm going to show you with an example right now why this is a terrible idea. And it doesn't matter if you make it more complicated, you're still going to run into this problem. You just have to list more views and whatnot, and you'll eventually run into the problem. Okay, so let's say you have one guy over here that is pro-choice, okay, but he's also for strict immigration. Okay, so I'm going to expand this a little bit. So this guy would be put in the middle in a simple political spectrum, right here in the center. Then you get another guy that is pro-life, and well, he believes open borders. Okay, or maybe not that extreme. Maybe he, something that's not that strict. Okay. So maybe open borders is a bad word for it, but you know what I mean. Okay. So now you have him in the middle. Okay. So now you have two people. Pay attention to this really closely. You have two people placed in the same section of the political spectrum who are completely opposite of each other, at least in this regard. Okay, this is a huge inconsistency. You're supposed to be having a system here that puts people together that have similar views, and not people together that have opposite views. This is how ridiculous this is. So even within this, you're gonna if you spend time in politics, there's going to be people that disagree to varying levels. Sometimes it's extreme like this, and sometimes it's not, because the political spectrum doesn't work. The only thing this serves right here, people say, well, it's practical. Well, it's not practical. It may be practical to you because you don't understand what's going on here, but the only thing that this really serves is getting people to identify with one group over the other and groupthink. I don't want to talk about too much about groupthink here, but if you know, you should know what that is. If not, you better look it up. People that associate with different groups tend to start thinking like each other, at least on a lot of topics. Okay, everyone partakes in groupthink. Some more than others. Most people have a very bad case of groupthink. There's definitely a spectrum there. I hate to use that word right now, but like someone like me, I am probably one of the people on the planet that is least affected by groupthink, but there's still many ways that I'm affected by that. Okay, not so much in politics, but not so much in that field, but in other aspects of life. Okay, so if this isn't enough to convince you that we should get rid of the political spectrum, you're lost, because this is just perfectly, like I say, you can try to say, okay, well, we're going to make it more complex. But there's more problems with that people never talk about, and some problems that people do talk about. So let's talk about a couple of them. I'm not going to cover this whole topic right now, but I'll probably make multiple videos on this. Let's go back to this over here. To the moderate, which one did I want to talk about here? Okay, let's talk about authoritarianism, because that sort of talks about when people start putting more dimensions to the political spectrum. So up here you might have, I mean, just pretend there's an area up here. They're going to put authoritarianism or something, and then down here they might put low, or not many rules, you know, not much government influence on, I don't know, maybe people's beliefs. I don't know how you would put it. So you know what I'm saying, though. So here's the problem with that, or here's one of the big problems with that. So some people support authoritarian measures in different circumstances. So it's very circumstantial, and so you would have to have a fluid political spectrum, a fluid multi-dimensional political spectrum. Okay, so how this is, for an example, let's say you get I don't know if I want to use a real world example, but something that could easily come about. You got one leader on one side who takes power, and a lot of their supporters are willing to give them extra, extra ability to enforce their beliefs. But then these people over here that identify over here are like, no, we don't want that. So at that point in time, a lot of the people over here are going to end up down here as well, so they're going to be left lower or whatever, and then these people are going to appear to be right upper, because they're going to be supporting some authoritarian, some level of authoritarianism. It may vary, maybe a little bit, maybe a lot, but it's still some level of it. Okay, and often it's a lot, as we see in world history, and even when it's a moderate amount, it still can be pretty intense. So then this political power, this group over here, the people over here, they get their leader. Okay, now they're going to be more lenient on what that leader can do and get away with. All right, and then these guys are down over here all of a sudden, so it's fluid. You know what I'm saying? It's fluid. It's not a good situation at all. It's a very bad setup. So it's pretty much useless. And it really just makes people, it just dumbs people down. We should just get rid of this absolute nonsense. Okay, there is at least one other thing I want to talk about here. Let's go, I don't know if I have this over here. Well, I kind of have it in small government, but let's be more specific. Low taxes. Obviously, people that identify as being over here, they have varying opinions on this. Some want almost none, and some, they identify more with what would be considered the middle or the central. That's not what I'm really talking about here, but let's talk about different types of taxing. Okay, so some people want to keep taxes how they are right now. Okay, they're collected. They want to have a low tax rate, but they want to keep a similar system in place, at least, something that takes money out of the corporate taxes or income taxes, stuff like that. Okay, now some people say let's just give an arbitrary number. They want 20% tax rate. Okay, just for an example. So then another guy comes along and he's like, okay, guess what? I want a 20% tax rate too, but I don't want to do taxing like that. I want to do taxing different. I want to do estate taxes, okay, death taxes, migrant taxes, whatever you want to call it. So that's basically where when someone they don't pay taxes until they die, or they leave the country, then they pay their taxes, and it's usually a much bigger amount, or for sake of argument, usually it's a much bigger amount. But it would equate to, in this situation, we're just using 20%. Okay, so they would pay 20% of all their net worth, or something like that. And then say someone passed away, and this new guy over here that identifies as being on the right says, yeah, let's just, instead of taxing them throughout their whole life, just do it at the end of their life, 20%. Now these are completely different methods of taxing, and you're going to have huge disagreements on the method of taxing, but yet they're placed in the same exact area because they both believe in 20% taxes. It's just crazy, okay? It's just crazy that people still use this system to judge people, or to classify. I don't want to say judge, but well, they do that too. But to classify people, it's so obsolete. If it was ever relevant to begin with, which I would say it's not. Okay, so there's something else I could talk about real quick. There's other aspects to this. Again, you can go read the article if you want, and like I say, I'll make other videos occasionally about this topic. This is a very important topic, but it's really ridiculous to say, okay, well, I believe in big government, I believe a lot of intervention, but I shouldn't believe in tradition. I shouldn't still want traditional families and stuff like that, traditional religions. There's people that are like that. Of course, in different countries, this can be a lot different too. I believe in England and France, this might be a little bit different. I think a lot of the people that I identify on the right, some are not. I don't know. I don't want to speak too much about it because I'm not into mainstream politics. But regardless, from country to country, it's going to vary, especially when you get into countries that are less culturally similar to each other. And then especially like if you replay the world, because they have no influence on each other. Countries in this world would not have a direct influence or any kind of influence on countries in another world that was replayed. So it's always going to be different, and it's very ridiculous. And it kind of reminds me of the whole communism thing, where a lot of the people on the right view it as anti-religious. Yeah. So this is kind of where I don't know if this would be. I don't know. Well, to make my point. So a lot of the people over here are default going to be against command economy just because they're religious, and they view command economy as anti-religious. Why do they view it like that? Well, that's because that's how the culture developed. But it's perfectly okay in reality for someone to be religious. I mean, it's possible. It's completely possible. It's just as possible for someone to be religious but also want big government. Okay, they want safety nets. They want social safety nets. The only reason why that happened is because cultural developments. It has nothing to do with how the human brain is set up or anything like that. It was cultural developments, and then people started to get into groupthink, or they view that as the enemy because they associate that with being against their religion when it's not. Okay, when it's not necessarily against the religion. Of course, yes, there's people over here that could be against religion, that want the big government, but that doesn't mean that that's the way it has to be. It could easily be the other way around. So yeah, I'll probably make a separate video on that one sometime. I've actually known people who identified as Christian communists. That just never. The main reason why that never happened is because a lot of the early communists were very anti-religious, and those are the ones who got popular. But again, that was just the luck of the draw of why that happened. There was no other real reason why that happened. Okay, so you can be very very left in this regard and very right and extremely right in that regard. You could be like an orthodox and still want the government to, like I say, you could be some kind of orthodox religion. I'm not being specific with Christianity or anything like that, and still want the government to take care of poor people. You know, you could still do that. That's not clashing. You could even want a command economy. You know, you could even want a command economy. Again, with the way history unfolded, that's not usually what happens, but that's only because of the way history unfolded. We've got to make that really clear. Okay, I talk about some other things in here. I think that pretty much covers it, what I want to talk about right now. But if you want, you can read more, and I will make more videos on it in the future sometime. So the political spectrum is garbage. Stop identifying with being left, right, up, down, or whatever other dimensional thing you want to come up with.